Yeah, happy to go live. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This Scrutiny Committee meeting is conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council Standing Orders. Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct will apply at all times, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request, and the images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the council. And just to confirm, today we're on the Performance Scrutiny Committee Partnerships on Wednesday, 8th of October 2025. So the first thing, if I can ask, do we have any apologies today, please?
Apologies from Councillor Peterson, Chair.
Thank you very much, there. And is there any declarations of interest for this meeting, please? No, thank you very much there. So if we go straight into the first substantial report, which is the Shared Resource Service, also known as SRS, monitoring update. And if I can ask the officer, I believe it's Tracy, are you introducing this? Yes, thank you.
Thanks. And just to say also, the leader is a cabinet member for this, but he's away at the moment. Yeah. Research director is joining us, but he's running a little bit late, so he'll be here before the end of the item. So the partnerships with the SRS, they provide all of our IT services, previously part of the council. The lead for the report today is Kath Seymour, and we've got a number of SRS colleagues in the room. Thanks very much for attending. We've also got Mark Blizzard from the council here, because this is very much a partnership, although the SRS is report. So Kath, I don't know if you introduce your colleagues and then talk us through.
Okay. Hi there, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the panel for the opportunity to come and present today. So as Tracy says, I'm Kath Seymour. I'm the Deputy Chief Operating Officer and Operations Director at the SRS. Just to introduce our senior leadership team to you, so we've got Mike Doverman, who's one of the Assistant Directors, Matt Lewis at the end of the table, who's the Chief Operating Officer, Sarah Stevens, Head of Service Management, Annette Drew, Head of Resources, James Bale, who's Head of Digital and Data, and Paul Higgs, one of the Assistant Directors as well. So it was a collaborative effort to put the report together. We all deliver different elements of the service, so hopefully between us today we should be able to answer any of your questions. Just in terms of the report, just to give an overview, obviously we've been coming to scrutiny annually since 2018. So initially we were looking at the investment objectives of the original business case. More latterly, we've been moving into the space where we're monitoring the performance and the relationship and our service delivery. So I feel that we've got an excellent working relationship with Tracy, Mark and the team, and really wanted to draw your attention to the fantastic supportive relationship we have with Karen Keane, one of the senior leadership in education. She's been absolutely phenomenal in supporting us as we develop the education service. Newport continues to have full representation across all of our SRS governance boards, which is ensuring that our priorities are embedded into the decision making, and on a monthly basis, led by Mark, we have the monitoring of our service delivery. The 2024-25 financial outturn shows a minor overspend of 6,000, which is largely due to inflationary costs with licensing and PSBA line charges. PSBA line charges are the connectivity between the buildings back to the central infrastructure. Newport's reserve fund stands at 50,000 with capital reserves of 237,000, which is earmarked for the capital infrastructure refresh in Vantage. We also have a section in the report about our internal audit activity. You'll see there's been good results in the internal audits over the last year, which is reporting as generally satisfactory with some minor improvements required. In terms of our performance highlights, in terms of our service level delivery, we remain strong across all areas of our service. Newport consistently achieving a 98 to 100% resolution rate against an 85% target. Our first point of contact, which is obviously trying to resolve at the first time that somebody rings into the service, averages around 80 to 82% against a target of 70%. Our customer satisfaction remained high throughout the year, peaking at 97% in December against a target of 80%. And our time to resolve calls, we're still trying to sort of establish a good baseline with this, but it's stabilised around 5 to 8 hours, which is reflecting the efficient service desk operations. We've incorporated some new work into the SLA this year, so notably we're supporting the LAPCO initiative. We've onboarded, we were just starting to onboard 2 additional comprehensive schools when we came in to see you last time. We've onboarded those, and we've also brought Maindy School over the summer holidays into the service level agreement as well. And we've also worked extensively with Newport's digital team, great support from Dominic Gibbons and Mark Bezard on bringing the team's telephony infrastructure into place for the schools this year to try and deal with the PTSM issue. In terms of the major initiatives, as I say, there's a huge volume of projects working through at the moment, but some of the noticeable ones are in the space of automation and AI. So these are working very much in collaboration with Newport. So this includes DBS checks, housing register automation and multilingual translation tools. I'm sure Mark will be able to support us with any questions around that. Co-pilot rollout to both corporate users and to members. Newport now has over 100 licensed users with a 94% active usage rate. Really exciting sort of development is the shared data platform, and Newport tried in the single view of child dashboard, moving it towards beta test and live deployment in 2026. We also went live with the Connecting Wales Contact Centre in December 24, which is achieving 50k in recurrent savings. This is a joint initiative between the different partners within the SRS, using one platform to deliver contact centre services. In the cybersecurity space, we migrated away from the previous SIEM SOC that we had with Vodafone, and we've moved to the National Wales solution now, which is known as Cymru SOC. This has strengthened our threat detection and resilience. Some of you will recall we used to be based in Blynyddol in terms of a data centre. In recent years, we moved Blynyddol and the Newport data halls into Vantage Point. We are now looking at migration to cloud services, and this is underway and due to be finished next year. In terms of staffing, reported in previous years, there were some concerns with staff retention. This has stabilised, and we've got an excellent programme in place led by Mike Doberman now, which is called Develop Yourself. It's a programme that's been designed to support staff growth, which is mapping training plans across the whole of the organisation and monitoring progress there. In the education space, I've already mentioned the onboarding of the new schools, but we also rolled out 2,500 devices across Newport as part of the EdTech programme, supporting the digital learning across all schools. I'll pause there and say thank you for welcoming us here today. We'd really welcome your questions and reflections on the report. So let's hand back to you. Thank you.
Is there any other comments anyone else wanted just to make sure? No? Thank you very much. Let's open it up to members there. If I open up to the Councillor Drew first, please.
Yeah, so thanks for those comments, and it's really pleasing to hear about the internal audit that you've carried out. What are the risks to SRS should a partner member withdraw from the partnership, for example, Gwent Peace, regarding the financial stability of the SRS partnership?
So, Gwent Police are one of our partners currently, but what we've done over the past year is create a separate operating model internally. So we've got an operating model for the local authorities and an operating model for the police response. So Gwent Police exiting should not have an impact on the day-to-day operations of the SRS. In terms of the financial, Nanette, would you like to come in with any comments there?
Obviously, as it being a 5-partner model, there's economies of scale and collaboration across all 5. Losing one of those partners is going to have an impact because now we're sharing costs, such as running costs of the SRS across 4 partners instead of 5. We have had conversations with the remaining 4 partners, and as part of the budget bills going forward, those costs will be factored in, and it's then to make a decision on where we potentially make savings to try and bring those partner costs back down.
So this could potentially be an increase in costs to Newport City Council and the other.
Yes, it's likely to be because the shared costs are increasing, but like I said, we are looking at savings to mitigate a lot of those increased costs.
Okay, thanks. And then what proactive steps, Chair, are being taken to attract maybe other county boroughs or partnerships, public sector partnerships into the SRS in order to strengthen collaboration, strengthen financial stability.
So in terms of sort of working with other partnerships and collaborations, that's something that we're constantly working with colleagues in other local authorities about best practice, how we can share collaboration, etc. At this time, our MOU remains the same, while the police are within our partnership, which precludes us from being able to trade and income generate. You know, Matt, I don't know whether lots of you want to come in and sort of answer that.
We have had conversations with a number of authorities over the last couple of years. It is that key point. And the one thing that Gwent Police Executive will enable us to do is to change our governance of the organisation. So something will have to change because the agreement will change from Gwent Police Executive. But we're looking at all the options at the moment, taking the options back into strategic board on the 21st of October in a couple of weeks as to what that governance looks like from April onwards. And that should unlock the ability for us to work with more organisations. All I would add is it does require a different approach from what we currently see in the public sector. The collaboration is harder than it used to be, for sure. Our 4 organisations are certainly in Welsh public sector the only ones in the local government space that are collaborating like we are. No one else is doing what we're doing is quite unique. So I think we said before, any support or how we get from anybody to kind of push that would be much appreciated.
Is nobody else doing what the SRS is doing? Not Cardiff?
I think, sorry. I was
You might be going to say the same thing.
I was going to say about, you know, we've obviously added in additional schools into our SLA, and we're also the LABCO work as well is new additional one to the SLA. So, you know, there is growth there from that perspective. There's also been growth in the digital and data services as well within the SRS. So there is growth, but I guess it's limited at this time, found by the governance model that we've got in place.
Yeah, I was going to say the same things. There's different ways of having growth, isn't there? There's new organisations, or there's doing more with the organisations you've got. So the new property services vehicle is another piece of work we're really pleased with. So that's a big step. But shared services are very difficult to achieve and reach into, you know, in any service provision.
So are we actually reaching out to counties like Caerphilly and so on?
Yeah, we have a number of times. Absolutely. We've got kind of, so without naming specific local authorities, we have got to a point where a business case has got 30-40% of the way through. And there have been, one instance, it was maybe too early for the organisation. A collaboration this big, covering that many services internally, was felt to be too big a step for their first collaborative venture. So that one kind of fell away. Another one was a recently new person coming to the organisation, wanted us to pick up their technology service. Very similar thing, got about 30-40% of the way through, and then kind of change of approach from that organisation. But they tend to revert back into, we will just provide our own service internally. We can continue to survive as we are, and not want to kind of take that boldly. The other 4 taken with us, like becoming part of the shared service. It is really difficult. And Newport were the last in. It was 3 originally, Blynyddol 2016-17, Newport 2017-18. It's challenging for us to bring that service in. It's challenging for the organisation to come in. It's not an easy path, and I think that kind of concerns some organisations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on the back of that, obviously, the financial risk was mentioned there. I suppose just on the back of that, to mention about the operational risks, I suppose, and whether or not we'll see any changes to the operational side, but also linked to that question, I suppose, is the opportunities, because we become more local government focused within that sphere, so we can become a lot more specialised with governance and how we perform. And obviously within that structure, you know, is there any changes that you can foresee happening in that regard? But I suppose that also links to I believe the collaboration that happened with the 3 local authorities that were slightly outside of that collaboration. Can you advise us of just how that works for clarity as well within that scope as well? Thank you.
I'd take one. I think within our service, it is complex, and there are varying levels of collaborations for different partners. There's an information governance collaboration, there's a data one, there's a digital one, there's a technology one. and there's different numbers in all of them. So there's always kind of one or more that might not be part of it because it's just not the right time when the kind of business case was written. I think it will offer more opportunities going forward for sure. I'm an absolute believer that collaborative services can be provided across wider than what we're doing. Whether that sits in with us or sits somewhere else is kind of irrelevant, but absolutely, I think we can do more and more can be done across the Gwent partners, certainly on a collaborative footing. I think that change in governance will allow us to work differently from how we do today. And I think the focus on purely local gov and not having to work across sectors will also benefit us. We'll kind of become more specialist in the local gov space, whereas at the moment, you do have to, everybody has to be aware of how to work in both sectors. And that's something over the last few months, with that separation of focus roles because of the exit, we're starting to see that, you know, the 200 odd staff can focus on local gov, the 53 focus on the police side, and it's starting to create different opportunities. And we think that will grow and become greater going forward. But we're in all the right spaces, we're in all the right national groups. You know, many of these people here are chairing different groups or in groups or working with other organisations. At some point, something will kind of click and it will happen. But you can't force those conversations. You need that other organisation to want to become part of the shared service. You can't force it on.
Thank you. And obviously, you mentioned about the national kind of stage and things like that, the national platform. How does that fit us in with the new side of things with local government, the way that they're looking at strategies, things like that on the national level, and how does that feed back down to us both on a regional level, but also within the Newport City side of the sphere?
We're in lots of different groups, like national AI forums. We're working with Tanya on the SRO group for connecting care. And I think those groups are more powerful when the service director and us are in the same conversation. And that connecting care does work really well. And it makes sure that the local voices are here within the national project. And you know, we are quite, I think, I hope Tanya will agree, we're quite powerful in that conversation because there's 5 of us working in a unique way nationally. Because of our relationship locally, and very gladly Cyfarfod also in collaboration with us for connecting care. We present as a group of 5 and we're working as a group of 5, implementing as a group of 5. And the amazing thing that we had from the social care directors very early on was we are going to have single business process, we're going to work together. We then take that message into the national forum. We're the only ones working like that. So people are looking to us as to how have you got it working, how is it running for you, so that we can try and get that working elsewhere across the country. We're influencing all sorts of forms at the moment.
Thank you. And while that's positive, is there anyone else that we can benchmark against in terms of the Welsh side of things there? Or is it that we kind of stand alone due to the size and scale of our work? Just to understand, obviously, how we compare and be better by looking at other models, maybe.
I mean, we are very different from other organisations because of how we operate in the shared service. If we wanted to benchmark against the shared service, we probably would have to look over the bridge to somewhere over. But even when you look at those organisations, everybody that existed when we started, the majority of them have now folded, they've gone. And they've gone because relationships broke down, or you know, a new chief executive came in and wanted to take a different direction. There's a couple that still exist UK wide, but in the main, the ones that started when we did have all gone. I think is also kind of testament to the fact that we're still successfully running, whereas most others have kind of fallen by the wayside. I think LGR on the English side of the bridge, that will force organisations to work how we work by choice.
And I know it's another piggyback question, but in terms of that, so would you say the partnership is mature in the way that it looks at resolving any problems, and have you learnt lessons from these breakdowns that we see across the bridge, and in order to have that mature kind of conversations to say, look, this is what happens in this sphere, but this is actually where we want to go. This is how we, as a partnership, if we, on the city side of things, if there's something that we disagree with or whatever it might be, about how we can approach that subject and how, that challenge can be met, and hopefully meet within that middle ground to understand the scope. Is there any examples of any challenges maybe in that sphere, just to kind of demonstrate, obviously, that partnership?
It's probably a new balance for an SRS answer maybe, but we get that all the time. We don't agree on everything. We have different views on different things, but we just have to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're taking account of all 5 at the moment, or 5 different organisation views, because you've got very rural, very kind of valleys-based, very city-based. You've got very different parts of all the people that we're working with. So it is absolutely a challenge, but we're trying to drive through the middle of all of that with hopefully this approach. meets the most need of most of the organisations we're working with. And there will always be things on the edges that maybe individual organisations have to do without us, with somebody else, or as part of technical operation. We're difficult to work with sometimes, but it's understandable.
Yeah, I think from a youthful perspective, you know, a partnership, there's always going to be some compromises. I think what Kath's kind of demonstrated in the report, and what the board committee is, there's a lot of positives for all of us in that. So, you know, telephony, all sorts of where we might have had to compromise slightly, but the result will be beneficial to all. But, you know, there will be challenges. We know we don't agree on everything, and I think that's healthy. So, yeah, I think it's, you know, it's the spirit of partnership that we all sort of take on board and we sort of
I think also the transparency where we are working in different spaces, still the inclusion of the different partners and being able to sort of understand the progress and the goals and objectives. So, you know, if there is sort of, you know, future collaborative opportunities there, everybody is on the same page in terms of the progress that's been made and sharing.
Thank you. I suppose obviously with the changes coming up with being more local government focused, that opens up to being different and showcasing that kind of mature debate, but also understanding that sphere and that you know what local government is to a better degree maybe, and understand the challenges moving forward with the new technologies and things like that, and how we can be better and showcase and demonstrate hopefully we are the best in Wales on what we do, and collectively as a city and as a region. So thank you. Does anyone else in the room have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Jones.
Hi there, thank you, Chair. Just briefly, with the recent attack on JLR and Marks and Spencers and such, are we well protected as an association against all these attacks? And if somebody does attack us, what is our backup plan? Are we in a good place?
So never say never, obviously, but you know we have got really robust mechanisms in place. In terms of our security provision at device level, and also as an entire wrap around the networks, the SIEM-SOC that I mentioned, you know, the information that's coming through to us on a national level about the different sort of threats is able to be received very frequently now, and you know there's good advice and guidance coming through that's shared across the partnerships there to enable us to assess that and take action. The other thing that we work tirelessly with, every authority has to have a code of connection, the PSN from a security perspective. So that gets a health check annually, and any any vulnerabilities are identified, and we then obviously put plans in place to remediate those. We've also got continuous scanning in place, which identifies vulnerabilities as they're being identified, and allows us the opportunity to react to those in a very swift way and be able to sort of work through those now. So I think, you know, we are constantly looking at how we can strengthen and tighten those arrangements. But I think, you know, never say never, unfortunately.
Can I just add something to that as well? Also, we run a lot of desktop exercises, so we test our procedures, we test our people. We work closely with all the partners and the digital teams to understand if in the event something does happen, people know their roles, people know where the documentation is held, people know what the recovery looks like. So it's not just, as Kath mentioned, it's that technical piece behind the scenes, it's also the cultural, the people piece that we ensure.
My second part of the question was, have you tested yourself in an emergency to see, I mean, with schools, we have a lockdown gates and you've got a system that we follow, and with yourselves, do you follow a 5-point plan and who knows what they do? How often do you test that plan against reality of being attacked?
I think annually is the plan is tested. Sorry, and the business continuity plan as well. But we've got a continuous training plan in place for the staff to bring them more to speed. Any sort of changes that are coming out from the security team. We also have monthly newsletters going out, and you know any new sort of threats that need to be acted upon, that'll be communicated to the teams as well with any sort of associated training required.
I just appreciate the fact that you know against it with all the new technologies and attacks, but it's nice to know that you know there's procedures in place, because you know yourself, the council can't function without IT anymore, and the protection you provide.
it's just signpost some other activity as well. So we go to Scrutiny Management Committee with the Annual Information Risk Report, which is kind of a new report. It encompasses collaboration with SOS. So we go annually with that to kind of report this is our and process it. So there's the technical piece, and as has been mentioned, there's the cultural piece to telling people not to click on links and things such as that. Being careful in that space. As Kat has mentioned, we've got loads of technical sort of tools in place, and the SOC scene is now a Wales SOC scene. So but essentially proactive monitoring of the network traffic. And because that's a Wales wide rather than SRS wide, which is what it was before. Yeah. Again, that's spreading the dark resilience. We're seeing some huge companies being hit, so we're not going to tell you that we're bulletproof, but there's an awful lot of measures in place.
I mean, say it's really one click away from danger, and that's a reality every day, I suppose. There.
Just want to draw your attention to in the report as well, in terms of the audits that were completed, the security audit and the business continuity audit were completed in the last 12 months. So it is something that's very active in our audit programmes as well. So one had a full rating and one had substantial, so there's still work to do in that space there, but really quite a good outcome.
Thank you, answers.
Yeah, thanks. It was just to back up what Mark said, really, that we also go to management scrutiny committee with that once a year, and also the thing that nobody's mentioned, because we're talking about technical things, the weakest link, the problem is generally the person and human being, the user, and so there's a whole load of work around training and reassurance, and our messaging is equally as important there.
I suppose that brings in two things. First of all, I suppose it's the fact that I believe most schools are now under the SRS agreement through various service level agreements on that side. Just on the level of the schools that are not, would that feed into potential risk and security risks in relation to how they access obviously systems within the scope, and or within the scope of the collaboration? What's the appetite of risk like when you're discussing about risk and things like that there? What's the collaboration of what and what's the appetite of risk between both the City Council and SRS as a body?
I guess from a Newport perspective, schools ultimately have a choice as to where they go. And I think it would be amiss of us to kind of say that SRS is necessarily better than anybody else. I think that to other suppliers. But I suppose what we would say is we have a good relationship with SRS. And SRS have a lot of controls in place to protect those schools, and I think we're happy with what is done in that space, and we have less control over the kind of other areas. The schools choose not to take the SRS. As Kat has mentioned, the kind of number of schools SRS partnership in terms of SLA is increased. I think that is a positive, but again, it's not necessary for us to comment unless the schools as a service users.
Okay, I probably would add into that. I mentioned the supportive relationship with Karen King. Karen brings all of the SLA providers together to ensure compliance against national standards in Welsh Government. So that's certainly something that she's very clear on what the requirements are of each of those providers.
And would you have anything about the appetite of risk when working together? When you're discussing, obviously, when you have meetings about risk, what's the appetite like within those meetings for the risk, and how what do we look at and things like that in partnership?
Good question. I think in the Google space, try and treat it the same as a kind of corporate space, in the sense that we recognise all the risks that are out there. Obviously, we're trying to put as much preventative measures in place as we possibly can. So this is the human resource type stuff, to do the right things in the training piece, technical measures. So I don't think we differentiate between a kind of corporate or a schools environment. We're trying to get their capability, their kind of thing to as high level as we can. And again, like I said, that would apply to FLA school as well. Criticizing them, we want them to be as high level as they possibly can, as Kath mentioned. Karen, especially in education, is very much trying to get everybody up to as much as possible.
And also, because there is different partners at play, would you say that each of the local authorities had similar risks, if not the same risks, or do we slightly differ or differ? What's the kind of picture between us, or just to understand the context of how we're looking? And as we said, the dynamics of urban versus rural, things like that. So there's going to be potentially different issues, but what's the picture like generally?
I would say broadly the risks are the same. And we all behave differently as local authorities, so there are subtle differences. Sort of similar governance arrangements for all parties, etc.
So all of the risks identified with the SRS are all presented back through the governance boards directly to the partners at the same time. So they would have finance, the governance board, a strategic board review of those risks, and also from an information security point of view, we've got a governance group that spans across all the partners. So we will present those collectively. So.
Thank you. And I know in a previous meeting we've discussed about like state actors and things like that. There, obviously they are a risk to us in trying to get into our interfaces and various technical terms getting in and basically become a security risk to us. Due to the context of where we are on an international kind of levels, are we seeing any increasing risks or any terms of people trying to get into our interfaces, or is it just kind of the same as normal? What's the picture like that regard?
I'm happy to explain that. Yes, we are aware, obviously, at increasing there are peaks and troughs depending on timings and so what we continually do is have conversations with third parties, people who are capable of providing us that information. Again, internally with the SRS, if we've got any concerns that have come from us, whether that be through our monitoring or through any reporting that comes through, that's shared on a wider basis. So to answer your question, yes, we are aware of the actors that are coming through, and we will respond accordingly depending on either the information that's within the SRS or externally provided, and we respond to that extremely quickly. As you can imagine, there's a wealth of information that comes through, but we have to respond quickly to make sure that we're responding to that in a way that keeps us secure.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
That's something as well. So yes, that was one of the reasons we ended up deciding to move to Cymru. So that's a national provision. All 22 areas are in there. The Parks Association, some of the health boards, the bulk of the public sector. One of the services they provide on top of what we had before was threat hunting, and they will actively seek out and find what's trying to come into the organisation. So we're kind of almost at a level back from being on the outside internet base, because we're on the PSBA network, that public sector network, and then we've got somebody who is trying to figure out, is someone trying to get in, they're trying to attack, what they're trying to do. So again, never say never, but we do feel as if we've got a lot of things in place that we didn't have before to try and improve that security posture.
That's brilliant, thank you. And I suppose it brings us to an evidence. Obviously, with my background, obviously I was trying to watch Irish news, and the HSC equivalent to our NHS got hijacked about 2 years ago, I think it is now, maybe a little bit longer. Have we learned lessons to that scope? So picturing saying what's happening internationally to make sure that we don't have anything like that, that our systems won't go down in a similar fashion.
We've got a chief information security officer who and sort of close links in with the Rep Resilience Forum. So those kind of things are actively talked about, discussed in terms of sort of the shaping of some of our plans and our testing there as well. So yeah, it's something that is very much topical.
Yeah, and there's other forums across Wales for the looks of the kind of pieces, and we'll kind of collectively will liaise with people like the National Cyber Security Centre and similar organisations. So we try and take on board all the stuff that's happening and respond accordingly. But like I said, there's no necessarily a magic answer. You just got to do your due diligence in all those areas.
Thank you. It's obviously that within partnership does sound very strong on that side and to keep us safe. So I do appreciate those answers. Thank you. I will just double check if there's anyone online that wishes to raise questions. I can see Councillor Davis, you're on the top of my screen. Did you want to come in with any questions on this one? I believe you had something maybe on the report, please.
Yeah, I'd like to, forgive me, I don't want to detract against the report, and it is a brilliant report, and thank you to everybody who's put it together. But I think my problem was that because I don't know a lot about SRS.
Oh, you've muted yourself, Councillor Davis.
You pressed the button, didn't you?
Sorry, I want to shut myself up. Yeah, I found it very difficult to follow. And I can't say a lot else than that, except the fact that, well done for putting the report together. But I personally found it very difficult. There was a lot of a lot of jargon in it that I couldn't put together with the report. So hopefully it's something that going forward, maybe it's something that I myself need to do with the idea of looking more into SRS to help me to understand the reports more, a lot more. Thank you, Chair.
I think it's on the back of that from my colleague. I think it's in conversation, maybe to have a look at the dynamic of the report, if it can be easier for the public to understand somewhat. So also maybe training for us as elected members as well, potentially in that side to understand the scope of the work. So it's a two-way, but I don't know if you wanted to come in and address just
to say thank you for that feedback, and we will sort of endeavour to ensure that we consider that when we're writing future ones, because appreciate there's probably names there, as you say, that are commonplace to us, but actually anyone else reading it, it's difficult to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good in the report, don't get me wrong there. The bits I could understand, yeah, were brilliant. And to me, it looks like it was a very difficult report to be put together. So, yeah, I commend everybody for doing the report, and just keep up the good work as well. Thank you.
If I could come in there just with a suggestion, so because I think it is difficult to get the balance, you want to give enough detail to talk about the partnership law. I got the privilege of sitting next to Kat, so I can see the notes on your introduction. I wonder if there had just been a one-page exec saying these are the key messages, that probably would have helped members. So I think it is difficult to reduce the detail on technical matters, but a summary might help up front.
No, thank you, Tracy, on that. I think it's maybe the scope, obviously, different elected members have different work experience, different life experiences and stuff like that there, and I think that's the general population side as well. So as the document is public, just obviously anything like that side, just to take on board what my colleague was advising and stating. So thank you for that, Councillor Davis. Was there anything else that you wish to add on top of that, Councillor Davis, at all, please? And you're still on mute, Councillor.
Sorry, I got a habit of doing that. There was just one part on the report. Again, it was difficult for me to understand. It's the data on page 14. I can understand like your red, your green, and your amber, but what I didn't understand was what you meant by platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. So if you wouldn't mind explaining that for me, that'd be great.
Sorry, that is the classifications within our service level agreement. So platinum calls are typically the most critical calls that need to be dealt with and have a different time allocation to them compared to a bronze call. So I will ensure that in future reports that actually is specified, so that's clearer for everyone. But in essence, a platinum call is something that needs to, could be a system down, needs to be dealt with very, very quickly. A bronze level call could be a request that somebody wants to change, and just a slightly slower time in terms of needing to respond to that query.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously, it's great to see everything in 100% there. So, thank you.
Thank you. I take that's all your questions, Councillor Davis. Can I confirm that? Yeah, no worries at all there. Councillor Screen, you're next on the list. If you would like to come in, do you have any questions there, please? And you unmute yourself, Councillor.
Sorry, I'm unmuted. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points to pick up from last year, 2024, regarding the staff turnover. Has that got better, or has it got worse, or is it normal for the type of industry you're recruiting from, the type of labour market you're recruiting from? And the second point was on section 10, social value. It's very pleasing to see that you've had 4 more apprentices through SRS. And I think I raised it last year about having a look at not just the numbers, but also possibly a breakdown into gender, ethnicity, to see if we are sort of representing the diversity of people in the Newport area. So that was just the 2 things I picked up on, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Screen. I think as you turned your picture on, I started being beamed with the sun in my eyes. So I think your picture helped the sun come out a little bit there. But there we are.
Yes.
Hopeful thinking. So yeah,
Right.
I'll open up to the officers and SOS. Thank you.
So in terms of the staff turnover, things have very much normalised. You know, after the pandemic, we started to see quite a bit of shift in terms of the roles within the organisation. I'd say that's definitely stabilised now. And we altered our target operating model about 2 years ago, put job families into place. The Develop Yourself programme from a training point of view was implemented, and you know, we are seeing movement, but it typically is within the organisation rather than a bleed externally that we'd seen previously. So I'd say that's returned to normal now. And anything you wanted to come in with the apprenticeships?
Yes, we're very keen to get apprentices in. We are supported by Torvine, who have also got their own Aspire Apprentice scheme. We've seen them grow throughout the organisation. We've got apprentices that started with us that have now kind of going into leadership roles as well. It just, yeah, fantastic programme.
We'll see on the back of that, obviously, with the apprenticeship side of things and about the dynamics of the workforce and even demographics. Just the understanding about how we're looking in terms of inclusivity and about how we're looking at diverse communities, especially getting more females, for example, into the role, because technical roles such as this, you know, number of girls going into like computer science and things like that, there isn't really seen. So it's just an understanding of where we are, but also how we're looking in terms of schools and education to be able to feed that back into the workforce, into the employment later on as well.
It's a good question. We haven't really done sort of like the assessment on the diversity within the team. It has been consideration around it, but I couldn't say that we've done that sort of assessment around it. And it is one was this doing, absolutely.
Is it possible maybe to come back to us again at a future point, or give us a report, something like that there, bias on that side? Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Screen, did you have another question there, please?
No, thank you, Chair. No, I just think it'd be useful to sort of monitor, you know, not just the numbers, but, you know, perhaps age, gender, ethnicity, or whatever, to see that, you know, you are recruiting a sort of broad range of individuals. Yeah, thank you, Chair. That's fine.
Thank you very much, Councillor Screen. And I will ask Councillor Bright, did you have anything as well there, please?
No, Chair, but I mean, only on about Windows 11. In our pre-meeting, my camera was working. Oh, it's working now. Sorry, but no, I just. I mean, my own experience is having this Windows 11 upgrade and the little technicalities that's happened with it. But no, I commend the report. You're all doing a great job, and no, nothing else to raise that hasn't already been raised. Thank you, Chair.
No worries at all, thank you. Just to make sure, is there anything from colleagues in the room? Last check.
Just about the report back on where the apprentices. Okay, so when you reporting back on the gender, ethnicity, and so on, can you also, Chair, have a report on which authorities the apprentices come from?
With regards, I think it wouldn't come from the authorities. Do you mean sort of like the areas that they're from?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, that should be
Is it spread across SRS area, or is it just from one area?
But because as an apprentice comes in, they tend to work across all of our partners, so we don't dedicate them to individual partners.
Thank you.
The host employer is Torvine, so the Torvine employees, but working across the partnership, so work allocation back to the individuals, or you looking for geographically where they're located, the home address?
Well, yeah, probably geographically, because you know, SRS is Gwent wide.
Yes.
Is there a spread of apprentices across Gwent?
We've had a similar question in Blynyddol Gwent, and the reason behind the question in Blynyddol Gwent was the service is wider than just one organisation. So adverts for apprentices, opportunities to become an apprentice at the SRS should go out on Newport's HR site, Torvine's, Blynyddol Gwent's, Monmouth's, so that an apprentice can come from any one of those 4 areas. So I think that's now in place. So if an advert goes out, unless it's shared with all the HR functions to put onto the job sites for each one. But, you know, like I said, the host employer is Torvine, That doesn't mean that the individual has to come from Torvine to come into being a apprentice. They can come from anywhere.
Very much. Okay. I'm assuming there's nothing from you, Councillor Jones, before I go on to my last one.
No.
Yes, thank you. So I suppose it's just the keeping services running smoothly, essentially, is the scope on this one. What's helping us meet our service level targets, and where do you think we could be better? And are there any shared challenges that we should be tackling together?
So I think the challenge with any of the new technologies coming in is the ability for everybody to adapt, sort of share those learnings and ensure that people aren't being excluded, and being able to sort of be brought up to speed with the training there. So that's always going to be an ongoing challenge, I think, with any of the initiatives that we put in. I think, to say strong working relationships, working on good communications back out to the partner organisations, to try and ensure that we're working collectively on these.
So I guess the only thing I'd say really is that the reason why we've got technology is to make us work better and faster and more efficiently, and there's a challenge to make the most of that collectively across all partners. Technology, especially the AI space, is to realise the benefits of that. The more we can do of that, the better. Because everybody's talking about AI, and we need to embrace it and make the most of it.
I suppose what links on to that, if you don't mind, to piggyback onto that, I suppose, to be better, do we as a local authority and a region have enough innovative space to be able to work? Do we have enough resource and things like that? Do we need to be the best that we can be, or is there other scope to think of how do we be the best, essentially?
I defer to Tracy on that, actually.
I can answer for ourselves if you want to start.
Yeah, start there.
We know we don't have the capacity and scale and the resource to do everything we need to. We know that. So just this week we've been, again, I won't name the authority, but we've been a day spent with another authority talking about, we have the same aspirations, we're trying to achieve the same things. So here's all the work we're doing, there's all the work you're doing. We'll focus on this bit, you focus on that bit, and we'll see what we can share after we finish. And the technology is almost irrelevant. The time consuming bit is the process mapping up front, the change, the how we're going to do it. The technology bit at the end is usually the simple piece. So that's the kind of thing we're doing. We know we don't have that capacity and scale. We know we haven't got the money to be able to go out and use private sector all of the time. We have to find different ways. And that collaboration question again is a really tough one to crack. 22 LAs, the last 2 years I've been chair of the Digital Advisory Group for Wales, trying to get the 22 authorities into a conversation which is, here's all of the work we're all doing. What could we start to kind of divvy up between each other and focus on individually to share back into the pod? It's a really, really hard conversation to get going. People before me have tried, and Chris Owen was the chair now from DC, will try again for the next 2 years. But that's what I think the answer has to be. We can't do it all ourselves. We need to lean on other public sector organisations where we can, and we will have to bring in outside help from the big organisations to help us get some things done that we've got no experience in.
Thank you. And before I bring you, would you believe that overall within the local authorities, and this is the 22, not obviously just the kind of ones involved, but do you believe there's a good vast understanding about where we need to go and how to go about it, or do you think, and that's those that understand technology because they're in the positions of technology in their approach, and those obviously like just general officers on a day-to-day basis, but I suppose do you believe there's a good political will across the board? And then linking in with the locally, do you think that there is that, or is there any improvements that could be suggested about how we identify it, scrutinise, whatever it might be? Is there anything that you could maybe suggest to us in that regard?
I think every authority is in a different place totally. I think there are varying levels of resource, there are varying levels of funding. There are some organisations that have the research and development capacity in the organisation, some that don't have it at all. And that kind of R&D resource is usually the first one that was let go in times of austerity and when we dealt with COVID and that kind of stuff. So yeah, every authority is very different, and you'll find that some prefer to work in their own region or within their own organisation. Some are happy to share things out externally. But we do a lot of work with Lindsay Phillips and Welsh Local Government Association as CDO for local government. And she has got a really, really tough job trying to get the organisations to share and do more together. And she's taken on the Connecting Care programme because it just wasn't anywhere at that point in time, so she had to grab it. And that's consumed 80–90% of all the resource in Welsh Local Government Association. So I guess if there was a magic wand, it would be we need to figure out how we add capacity to that kind of resource in Lindsay's world, which will benefit all of us in the end, because that's the connector. That's what will connect us all together going forward. I can't connect 22 LAs together. I can connect 4, but Lindsay has the remit to connect 22, and we need to kind of put a bit of weight behind a role like Lindsay's, because it's us that will make Lindsay a success. She can't do it on her own.
Yeah, thanks. That's much more sophisticated. So everything that said, in terms of the in the Wales space, I think local government leaders have a role there. We're in a bit of a different position. So Dimitri is from a tech background. Most leaders aren't. They come from all different walks of life. So is a chair and has a key role, works with Lindsay Phillips and so on and so on. So that's great. I know you're at the Socrative conference. Dimitri speaking there, isn't he? Next week, I think. So there's something about leaders, promoting that to leaders. I mean, all leaders, not for the cabinet, cabinet members, chief execs, and so on. There's something about the board, the SRS board. I don't think we've talked about the composition of that too much, but that is all chief execs and leaders of authorities. So they collectively, I think, have quite a powerful voice, being the only example. But I also wanted to circle back to the conversation earlier about risk, because I think some of this is around both risk and perceived risk, 2 fronts. One is that organisations tend to use sovereignty. They want to be in charge of their own IT and their own data because they think it's less risky, whereas actually that isn't necessarily the case. You need more governance. So I think there's something about risk there. But in terms of how we all use tech better, we talked a lot about being risk averse and very contained about schools and data, but in other spaces you can be more risky, and it's okay to have a more relaxed risk appetite if you put the right controls in. So if we're talking about automation and how we roll out technology, and we roll Copilot out immediately as a joint piece to all our members, there is something about embracing the opportunities that come with some risks, I think, and that needs to be seen a bit differently there. You'd still be very risk averse, of course, with schools data and cyber and all of that. There are places where you can be more risky and expand.
Thank you. And I believe that that's probably, people that are lack knowledge or understanding sometimes are the most cautious and more wary of systems. I think that's probably in the neck of the woods as well there. So I appreciate those answers there. So I have done a round robin of colleagues there. So I don't know if any of the officers or SRS want to comment anything further before we finish and do recommendations. No. Well, thank you very much for your attendance there. Appreciate it, and obviously we'll obviously link back and we look forward to any updates from what we've suggested today. So appreciate your time. Thank you ever so much there. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Do you want to hear the recommendations now, just to make sure that we've got it covered? Yeah. Thank you.
Construct, Chair, and pleased to hear about procedures in place for cyber security. Councillor Davis comment about the dynamic of the report as we make those. Appreciate that it is the point on the balance, but Tracy comment about possibly adding a one executive summary. Just the next one. Classifications for golden platinum codes and future reports. And you comment here about the apprenticeships. We'll possibly get more information on the number of age, gender, but we're recruiting a broad range of individuals, and Councillor George's comment about the geography of them as well, apprenticeships. Apart from those, was there any other comments or recommendations the committee would like to make in regards to the report?
I think that was mostly from what I could hear. I can see colleagues online. Are we satisfied with those from what you could hear, please? Yeah, we got thumbs up. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, colleagues. Okay, I'm happy with that. Thank you ever so much for coming. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
There are other people on screen sharing.
No, that's fine. I was just saying, the only one person, which is great to see. No problems at all. Thank you. And just to arrange ourselves there. So we do move on to this report, which is the Gwent Regional Partnership Board, RPB Annual Report 2024 to 2025, which are on pages 31 to 80. Before I bring in the officers, does the cabinet member want to come in to say a few comments there, please?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm just going to introduce the report, which is the Gwent Regional Partnership Board annual report. So the Gwent Regional Partnership Board is one of 7 regional partnership boards in Wales, set up under the Social Services and Wellbeing Act to drive the integration of health and social care services and improve the wellbeing of the population. The board is collaboration between local authorities, health, third sector providers, citizens and carers, and the remit of the work is to integrate health and social care services via strategic planning across priority groups that have been set up by Welsh Government. There are several statutory duties which we must take forward as the RPB, such as producing a population needs assessment for the region, which assesses the care and support needs in Gwent, and this is done through data collection from various and reliable sources and engagement with people and communities. The area plan is then developed, which sets out actions that we need to take to deliver on the population needs assessment. And we work closely with Gwent Public Services Board colleagues to ensure that we are not duplicating work efforts that are both the area plan and the wellbeing plan for Gwent as it aligns. The annual report in front of you today highlights the progress made against the area plan, and it's been developed on a regional footprint, highlighting programmes of work that are being taken forward across Newport, Caerphilly, Torfaen, Blaenau Gwent and Monmouthshire. So section 3.2 provides some key developments in 24 and 25 from a Gwent perspective, but there's a snapshot of some of the work that's taken place in Newport. One, I guess you can imagine, is close to my heart, which is the new Divergent Strategic Partnership. So that's a subgroup of the Regional Partnership Board, and obviously I'm part of that work stream and the Regional Partnership Board's Autism Champion for Gwent. Although not within the reporting timeline, it's important to note that part of the work that is developed in this space and that Newport recently became that new divergent friendly city, which I know, Chair, that you fantastically seconded for me. So, and councillors then have agreed to promote more inclusivity by ensuring the local authority services are equipped to identify and meet the needs of neurodivergent individuals, and this will involve extra training for all the council employees, support and awareness and acceptance campaigns, and reasonable adjustments to encourage more participation in public life. We also have the Dementia Strategic Partnership and the Dementia Friendly Gwent Network set up. A dementia hub pilot in 5 local authorities, with Newport being held at the Riverfront Theatre. The project has gone from strength to strength, staffed by Alzheimer's Society, dementia-friendly advisors to support community members. The pilot was supported by a range of partners in Newport, from Newport Live, community connectors, age-friendly leads and community leads. We're also continuing to engage with groups of communities across Newport to find out what matters to them in dementia care and support that we can continue to learn to grow and improve support under the All Wales Dementia Care Pathways of Standards of Work. It would be nice to point out some of the quotes that we've had from the hubs, and basically people are saying, you know, these hubs are amazing. I would love to see the memory assessment clinics in future being held in them if possible. Keep up the excellent work that's being done. I attended a Newport dementia awareness session at the hub. The information was invaluable. It filled a lot of gaps in knowledge and gave me an idea of how best to reach out to support people. And another one is I came to the hub today, just burst into tears. I'm a carer for my mum and I just needed help from someone to help and tell me what support I can get and access. The hub is brilliant as it offers a space to speak to someone, get information and advice and be signposted to the right people for help. So I think that's a testament of how well that's working. Newport's community connectors reached more than 6,400 people, including 1,937 unpaid carers, distributed 264 crisis food parcels and improved care engagement. The community mental health support work stream achieved significant reach within the Mellow Cymru platform, attracting over 45,000 new users across Gwent and showing a 29% increase in engagement. Gwent Connect 5, the evidence-based mental health training programme, trained 1,115 individuals with 99% reporting improved confidence. and regarding information, advice and assistance. So we continue to support events and activities to raise awareness, and Dewis, which has seen an increase in users in Newport accessing information, advice and assistance via the online platform, and increase in searches. So the top searches in Newport are microcare, autism, childcare, mental health and drug support. The Gwent Career College Consortium work continues to support the health and social care workforce and is an innovative partnership approach to support the recruitment, development and qualification of health and social care workers across Gwent. We continue to develop more work placement opportunities for further education learners within the Gwent local authorities, including Newport. Also, as part of the work with the integrated work programme, this helps to develop and deliver integrated health and social care career pathway programmes across Gwent schools. And in 24-25, St Joseph's and Gwent's Yscoed Newport were part of 10 secondary schools in Gwent involved in the work. This inspired over 500 learners. Its success and innovation approach were recognised with nominations for Outstanding Achievement Awards and the 2025 Careers Wales Awards. In our hospital discharge, the Improving System Flow work stream has strengthened hospital discharges processes across Gwent localities, reducing delays and improving patient outcomes. And we continue to work as a region to build the work done as part of the 50-day challenge and work with Welsh Government to share progress and learning. Embedding discharge to recover and assess staff, including occupational therapists and social workers, directly into hospital settings such as the Royal Gwent and Ysbyty and Iron Bevan, as enhanced discharge planning, and we are continuing our efforts to improve hospital discharges. Carers on-site support hubs are located within each of the 5 main hospital sites in Gwent. This model involves a partnership with the health board and third sector organisations, Ymddiheuriadau, Age Connect Torfaen and Hospice of the Valleys. And so the committee we're asking today is to consider the joint regional commitments within the area plan, and then to review the Regional Partnership Board Annual Report 24-25 and progress made against any objectives and provide any feedback you may have. We've also got Natasha Harris here as well from the Regional Partnership Board. So I guess, I'm not sure if Tanya, you want to come in next, so I'll hand over to Natasha.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Councillor, for your introduction there. Obviously, very comprehensive information for the committee, which I'm sure we'll take on board. And of course, if you want to come in as well, Tanya, as mentioned there, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think, as you said, it was a very comprehensive introduction from Councillor Lacey about what the impact that the Regional Partnership Board has had, particularly within the community of Newport, and I don't really want to say much more than that, because the report is full of even more examples. And as Councillor Lacey has already said, Natasha Harris, who's the head of the Regional Partnership team, is here and will be able to support with responses to members' questions.
Thank you. And Natasha, if you want to just introduce yourself and if there's any comments that you wish to raise before we open up to questions, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm Natasha Harris. I'm the head of the Gwent Regional Partnership team. As Councillor Lacey has said within the introduction, there's a lot of really great work that's gone on across the Regional Partnership Board. We have had a lot of challenges this year, as you will be well aware of, with hospital discharge and things like that. But what I will say is partners across Gwent, they really do work passionately in partnership across health, third sector and local authority. So yeah, there's lots of evidence in the report of some of the really good projects that have been developed across Gwent, and it's testament to the integrated working across Gwent, and you've heard some of the examples, particularly around Newport. Happy to answer any questions, and I'm happy to link with anybody outside of the meeting if there are things you would like to have more information on. And I know I've sent the committee members out several reports over the last few weeks around workforce development and some of the citizen network newsletters and things like that, just to keep you in the loop with things that are happening in your area. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much there, Natasha. You mentioned about the workforce development, which actually links to one of the first questions there, which I believe Councillor Davis, if you want to come in to ask your question in relation to that, please.
Sorry, Chair, was you referring to me then?
Yes, I was, Councillor. So Natasha was introducing the report also and mentioning about the information being sent out, including workforce development. I know earlier in the pre-meeting that you had a few points that you wanted to raise in relation to that, the training of the workforce development. Do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant report, and I take my hat off to everyone that's contributed to it. And it's great to see the multi-agencies all working together for the prime goal. I haven't got a lot else to say about it really, except yeah, I like reading the case studies. That's a big thing of mine. And I like the way that the report has been set out. As the Chair said, our earlier report I did find a bit difficult to understand. So with your report, though, I was back on the level, and I knew what I was reading and what I was expecting from it. So I don't have a question, just to commend everybody that put the report together, and keep up the good work. You're doing so much good. To carry on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davis. I don't know if either Tanya or Natasha wants to come in with just a brief response to that at all, or happy with that.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Yeah, no worries at all there. So Councillor Screen, I can see you next onto my right of the screen there. Do you want to come in as well, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, really just to echo what Councillor Davis said, that, you know, I think this is a very good report. There's a lot of work being done, a lot of progress. You know, it's one of the most important areas of our society these days. We're an aging population, you know, and it's so important. I just want to commend him really, the amount of work that's been done, reaching out in the community, making people aware of what's available, and you know, looking after young carers, you know, which is a big thing. So yeah, I just want to commend the whole team on the work they're doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, another positive remarks there. So I'll go to the last councillor I can see online, which is Councillor Bright. Did you have any questions or queries or anything like that you wish to raise, please?
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, to echo what the other two councillors said, great report. Yeah, two things, please. Firstly, the self-assessment rapid access tool. Now, I know we pay into that, so we haven't made that Ask Sarah tool, have we? But when someone actually clicks onto it from Newport, say, you scroll down the screen, it's got Cardiff Council, Gateshead Council, Southend-on-Sea Council. And of course, we purchased Gwent Regional Partnership Board. Now, maybe somebody who, I'm just saying it's not easy to realise you're going to click on Newport. So maybe we could change how let's build on that app to actually have the councils listed rather than have Gwent Regional Partnership Board, just make it more accessible maybe. That'd be my first point. My second point, please. Yes, it's great that we're reaching out and meeting young carers, and that we reached 1,681 young carers were identified via the schools project. And it sort of touches on what the cabinet member says in the comments when people they attend these sessions and they didn't realise what was there. So people don't know what they don't know, do they? So in relation to young carers, how do we know we're reaching all those young carers and all the different ethnic groups, and what actions in place to meet that? And on the back of that, sorry, going back to the start, when you do go on the Ask Sarah app, it's bilingual, but it's only English and Welsh, so we're not meeting the other languages on that app. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't know if Tanya or
perhaps, Chair, if Natasha can take the Ask Sarah question, and then I'm happy to come in on the young carers to say a bit more on that. If that's okay, Natasha.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thank you, Councillor. It's always helpful to know how these sort of tools land, really. So if it's not quite right, that's good for us to know. And the partners that we work with on that self-assessment app, they're very open to feedback. So I will pass that on just to make sure that they're aware of that, to see if there's any changes that can be made, because we use it in Gwent, but it's actually a national app. So I'm sure that if you're pointing these things out, they might have heard similar things in other areas. So I will I will send your points across to them, and I can come back to you as a committee and let you know what's happened with that, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Natasha and Tanya. Thank you.
So I think just in relation to young carers, I think it's important to realise that there's work going on by the Regional Partnership Board, which will reach a certain number of young carers. But as a Newport City Council, we also have we provide support to young carers through our prevention and early intervention team. And I know that the head of that service area is working currently with the schools in Newport to try and come to some arrangement about how we can further increase awareness of the support available to young carers and identify them through the schools. It is quite a tricky area because some young carers, some children, wouldn't see themselves as such. They would just see themselves as helping out a family member or a friend. So, and actually may not want to identify themselves. However, you know, there is a role that we have to play to ensure that, you know, that's a positive choice, that they're not making that choice because they just simply don't know what's out there. And so I can, you know, that will be reported through, because that piece of work that is being done in relation to young carers is part of the annual plan that the Prevention and Inclusion Service have, and that will be reported through to Scrutiny through that annual plan update.
Thank you. It's just a reminder, hopefully Councillor White is aware about the Young Carers Covenant as well that we proudly signed up to. So it's part of the work in relation to that as well to bring to the forum. So it's just to highlight that obviously within the meeting. And a big thank you to those obviously that done a lot of work behind that on a local basis to mention. Councillor White, did you have any other further questions at all from you please?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, and thank you for the answers. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Councillor White. If I go to Councillor Jones, because you're the furthest from the room for me, do you have any questions there?
No.
No?
Good, thank you.
That's great, thank you. And of course now Councillor Jewett, please.
Thank you for a really positive report. So much going on in there. And this really is a follow-up to your last answer. There's a huge range of projects and programmes, and they're all really, really positive. So what communication strategies are being put in place to coordinate information about all these strategies and then to inform the public about the range of programmes in a coordinated way?
Yeah, really good question, Councillor Druitt. I'm actually going to hand over to Natasha now, because I know her team have a very clear communication strategy to make sure that the messages get out there. So, Natasha.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor. There's a huge amount of work that I'm proud to say goes on within Newport and the whole of Gwent. We've got a citizen network which started off with, we had a handful of citizens that used to attend. Now we've got over 200 across Gwent, which is amazing. And what we do almost like a travelling road show. So we go to each local authority, but we go to community venues where we know people are, because we really want people to help shape the policies that we have and shape the work that we do to make that difference and impact to health and social care. So we very much value the expertise of citizens in our communities. So we ran quite a few of the co-production luncheons, we call them, last year. So we have, you know, coffee and cake with citizens, and we just hand over to them really so they can share their experiences of health and social care, whether that's a good experience or whether that's not such a good experience, because that all helps us sort of make improvements going forward. So we very much share all the work we're doing across the citizen network. I also go out with my team to different community organisations, whether that's carers or age-friendly forums, where I highlight the work that we're doing across the Regional Partnership Board and highlight some of the case studies, so communities can see that all the work that goes on behind the report, because the report is great, but it's good to see the action that's being taken forward, isn't it, from the area plan, so that happens throughout Gwent. And we also have a citizen network newsletter, which is sent out on a weekly basis. It highlights the work that goes on in Newport and each local authority individually, but it also highlights a regional sort of coordination of events. So if somebody from Newport, for example, wanted to go to Caerphilly to attend something, they can, and they'll have the information on that particular activity or service or provision. So we've got quite a coordinated response to sort of highlighting the work that we do. Could we improve? Yes, we're always trying to improve that, and we're always working with citizens to make sure that they are shaping what we do going forward. In fact, I think we've got a citizen network coming up, a panel coming up shortly in one of the areas to look at some of this work further. So I hope that answered your query, but if not, please let me know if you need more information, and I'm happy to share that with you. I can share you reports and newsletters that we've done, just so you can see the extent of the work that's going on in the Newport area.
That would be helpful, Chair. Thank you. It would be helpful.
Thank you, Natasha. Just to kind of piggyback off that question, I know you mentioned there's different forums and citizenship panels and things like that noted. Do you have any dealing with any like CLICE and things like that, any others to work with them in terms of partnerships, just to add context to, you know, who you speak to, what type of things and impacts that each other have, but how you support each other in that regard as well from information that comes across?
I can jump in there, Chair, if you like, Natasha. CLICE actually sit on the Regional Partnership Board, so they're an active member, so absolutely integral to the work of the board, and they bring updates to each board.
That's brilliant. As I said, it's just because the dynamic of what's mentioned, just to add that context in, that they are obviously linked in within that on top of all the forums that was really stipulated. So thank you for that there. Councillor Drew, did you have any other questions? Or
no other questions.
No other questions. Thank you very much there. I suppose linking on to the back of Councillor Drewitt's questions about the communities, I just suppose, how can we make it easier for people to get involved and share the views? Because I know we said the number of 200, but is there anything that we could be doing either locally or regionally in our partnerships to be better at what we do to get either awareness or the message or more people to be involved?
I think, Natasha, you know, I think as you've already heard, sorry, that there's been an increased level of activity for the team. So we have seen a significant rise in the number of citizens that are involved. However, I have no doubt that the team will continue to do more to increase that number, Natasha, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And as councillors, we really value it if you could share our newsletter. And you know, and give us any feedback on the newsletter. We've got our email address and contact number for the team within the newsletter if people want to ask more questions, and we regularly get emails from the public to that email address asking how they can get more involved in certain themes of work that we're doing if they've got an interest or if they're a carer. So yeah, that would be great if you could sort of share the newsletter. If we send it out to you, that would be wonderful.
Certainly, thank you.
That's great, Natasha. And I think it builds up to, I suppose it's those that have to use the services are more likely to have a say, isn't it? It's trying to outreach to others that may not necessarily use the kind of things all the time, but if they do use it, to have that say. But also I think sometimes, you know, people are very quick on social media to add the negatives about how they access services, but not very quick about the positives. It's nice to capture some of those positives to resonate, because it's really good for the staffing across the board to say, actually, you know, this is really good. This is the impact that we're having locally. And it's that different dynamic, isn't it? Because it's not something that you want to see at the forefront, is all those negative comments. So hopefully that would change the culture, maybe for them in that side of things, hopefully in that side within that scope. So appreciate obviously the answers to that. Yeah, so another question I've got is, so we've seen great projects, and I know Councillor Lacey mentioned it and said about the dementia hubs and hospital to home. Natasha, I know you mentioned as well. How are we helping those? How are we helping those projects grow and basically benefit more people, both across the city and the region?
I think I'll start, and Natasha may want to come in. I think it's a challenge to see, though, if I'm being honest about it, to see those projects grow, because a lot of these projects are grant funded through the Regional Partnership Board. That grant funding comes to an end in 2027. There are conversations at the moment between the between the Association of Directors and health boards and Welsh Government about what life will look like after what we call the Regional Integration Fund, so after 2027. So it's a challenge, I think is all I can say at the moment, because right now there is no clarity on whether those funds will continue, although I suspect they will. And if they do continue, will there be a different focus on the use of those funds?
Natasha, I didn't know if you want to come into that one at all as well, please.
Chair, I would have said the same as Tanya. It is a challenge because, for example, the Dementia Hub in Newport, although it's fantastic and it's growing, and we're getting feedback from citizens, and we're able to shape and change the model of delivery with that feedback. It is only grant funded until March 2026, and then we'll relook at it again through, but it's very difficult when we don't know where we are with the funding going forward.
No, perfect. Thank you. Just obviously to give you an opportunity if you want to come in. Thank you very much there. And I suppose it's just hopefully within that space, because RIF funding, or the Regional Integrated Fund as mentioned, has allowed us to trial projects to see if they work, and a number of them have been highly successful. So hopefully long may that happen and showcase that they actually do have an impact within our communities. So, on that side, and to push forward on those where we can locally, etc. And that scope. I suppose the other ones is just about how the evidence. What evidence other than kind of those reports? Is there anything else that you want to add about what evidence exists that the integration of health and social care has led to measurable improvements in outcomes? And is there anything that could be bettered within the partnerships to be even more mature and to be better and challenging each other?
I think what I would say is that there's always more to be done, absolutely, and I know that the regional partnership team that Natasha is leading is working hard to improve those partnership workings and making sure that those partnerships that sit underneath the board. So, for example, the children's partnership, the adults partnership, the dementia. There's a number of different partnerships that report into the regional partnership board. That they work as closely together, and also that they understand what each other's doing, so there's no duplication. I think there's a lot of evidence, as you've outlined in the regional partnership board report, in the annual report. I think you'll find evidence in, for example, the annual director's report has just gone through council, and there would be more evidence in those sorts of reports as well, as I'm sure there would be in health board reports that are going through their executive process.
Thank you, Tanya. And I don't know, Natasha, do you want to come into that or not, just to make sure that you have a say if needs be?
No, nothing to add there, Chair.
No problem. Thank you very much. I suppose the last one for me that links on to it is about basically about how we evaluate the effectiveness of the partnership board, especially around the co-production beyond attendance and engagement metrics. How do we measure it? How do we effectively know what's going on? And again, do we feel it's the right tool that we use, or can again that change to be better for inclusive of diverse communities, things like that, there, to make sure that we're fully out there, making sure as well that people having a voice, but we're really getting in there to what the public needs and want.
So around sort of how do we know the difference that those are making, how do we measure that? So every project that is funded through the Regional Integration Fund has to report on a quarterly basis about there's a number of performance indicators that are agreed at the point the project is brought into being, and those are then reported through to Welsh Government, which is actually a culmination of what is included in the annual report. There's obviously a lot more detailed performance information that sits behind this annual report. But just to reassure members that there's a lot of scrutiny that goes on for each individual project, and the project leads have to report in quarterly.
That's great, thank you. And do we benchmark against any other local areas or regional partnership boards?
I think I'll bring Natasha in here in a second, but I'm not aware that we do, insofar as the demographics of each region. So each region is a different demographic. So the demographic of the Gwent area would be quite different to the North Wales area. So I don't think that there is any benchmarking, Natasha, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right, Tanya. There's no actual benchmarking, Chair, but what we've got is a regional partnership board leads meeting. So myself and the other counterparts who do my job across Wales, we meet on a weekly basis and we run through different things, share learning, share good practice. And one of the examples of that shared learning and good practice is we've partnered up with Dementia Friendly Swansea, and they've actually supported Gwent and given us a package of training that's been developed Wales-wide with clinicians, citizens, carers, people living with dementia, social workers, health workers. And they've allowed us to take forward that training because they want it to be a Wales-wide piece of work. So we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't developed those relationships outside of Newport, Gwent. So there's lots of work that goes on in collaboration. So we don't actually benchmark, but we share a lot of learning and a lot of ideas to make sure that we're all doing similar things where we can.
Thank you. I suppose within that space, do you have anything that say like any other further support or resources just to understand or challenge about how the partnership between the City Council and the RGB can be any better yet again?
So do we have a challenge? Well, I think one of the things that is, will provide that level of challenge is our cabinet member obviously sits on the regional partnership board, and as do the cabinet members from the other Gwent authorities, and they do provide challenge to officers to ensure that we're delivering the best possible services. Flies sit on the board as well, so that's an external challenge for us, as do we have a citizen representative on the board as well. So and we also have the third sector voluntary gallows sit on board. So there's a number of, it's not just the health board and social services. There are a number of other partners that sit around that table that absolutely do provide challenge.
Is there anything that could be done in terms of resources or anything that you think would be, if in an ideal world, but just would you be ready to take on board if there was extra grant funding or anything else like that put in to say, actually, we've got that ability to know what we want, where we want it?
I think we would always maximise. We're always very clear about where the need is, and if we do get additional grant funding, we are pretty much armed with a lot of evidence already to say yes, we would use it in this way. Very often, though, the grant funding that comes forward is very predetermined by Welsh Government, so they're very clear about it needs to be used in this way. We don't often get grant money with a lot of flexibility to put where you think the need is. It's very much guided by Welsh Government.
So in terms of that, would you say, kind of in context, that maybe a little bit more flexibility within the regional side? So in next rounds of funding, maybe that would be a scope for a request to go in.
Absolutely.
And would you give us an example just for context? What type of flexibility?
So me personally, I think what I would be saying is that if we had more flexibility to put things in more from a preventative point of view, a lot of the grant monies that are coming through are very focused on keeping discharging people from hospital. So actually, if we can invest further down the line to prevent people from getting there in the first place.
No, thank you for that in context. And Natasha, did you want to come in to that one at all?
No, I would completely agree with Tanya on that, Chair, so nothing to add there.
No, and because you were mentioned, Councillor Lacey, did you want to come in to comment on that at all?
No, well, yes, I know. I suppose I think Tanya and what Natasha have said, you know, it is right, and the representation on that board is quite complex. You know, it should be noted as well, because I know we haven't mentioned it, but housing, Paula Kennedy actually sits on that board as well. So there's, you know, we discussed to that point as well, you know, the social services and the health section around the housing that's being provided. And I think I guess there is a massive complexity around the board as well, in terms of with funding streams. You know, like I said, I sit on the neurodivergent improvement plan and the autism strategy, and that's another group of, again, probably sort of 30 different partners then from other areas, and those subgroups are under each of those headings, you know, older persons, children's, housing. So, you know, I don't think this report really gives announcing to the complexity of the regional partnership board and the amount of work that goes in, and the amount of work that, you know, that Natasha and their team and the directors of social services put in with this. And there is definitely a lot of challenge going back and forth. You know, health, the challenges in health that they have are different to the challenges that we have in social services, and we often have those conversations back and forth. Their priorities sometimes always often aligning reducing bed waiting times, for example, but then they want to push people back into the communities. Well, we might not have that resource within the community, so we need to ensure that the care is well looked after. So there's a lot of challenge that goes on around that table and in those subgroups as well. And I think it's just you know, testament to the work that all the teams do within that regional partnership, that it is working. It's certainly having benefits. You know, I'm seeing that from the subgroups that I sit on, and as Natasha and Tanya mentioned about the dementia hubs and things there, you know, it's a fantastic service that's coming from that regional partnership. And, you know, just a big thank you to everybody on that team, really. And I think, you know, the annual report sort of, as I said, is written so well that doesn't give you the complexity of what is underneath it, I think. So, but no, that's just that from me. Sorry, Chair, I went off a bit on a tangent then, to be expected.
No. Perfectly fine, yeah, absolutely. So thank you. And I suppose some of the comments that we've heard from Tanya may be something that we can pick up with the WLGA through your forums that you sit on there as well, and maybe address some of the points there about flexibility in some of the funding to make it more beneficial maybe, and more prudent and more resourceful in where the money goes.
I mean, if I can just jump back in on that one with the WLGA from a funding point of view as well about flexibility. I mean, Tanya was probably fed up with me because I keep going on about this one. But for example, the funding that we received as part of the 50-day challenge last year, Welsh Government required our senior officers to report weekly on the results and the targets of how that money was being spent and the impact. And it wasn't an easy report to fill in, and it was having to be done weekly. And then it was really, and again, you know, I sat on a number of calls with cabinet members of social services, with Jeremy Miles, with other people, and, you know, sort of kept having that conversation that whilst they are handing money down to regional partnership boards, the stringent criteria that comes behind it, or the reporting that they require from us, is it's over the top, I think. And yes, they have to know that information, but like I said, the criteria behind it, or what they expect us to do, and the hoops that they expect us to jump through, then once we've got that funding, is difficult to maintain. And along with what we can apply it to, the back reporting after it as well is sometimes a little bit over the top, which they require of us. And I think that's something that perhaps we could go back. Well, I often go back with on that social service, on that chair cabinet board, but I think Jeremy Mann stopped answering my questions in the end, because I kept telling him over and over again, it's too, you know, you stop asking us to do this weekly, it's too much, you know. So yeah, there is that as well.
Thank you very much. It's also positive that you're aware of that and are addressing that already. So it's you know, really good to hear that. And I suppose it's just a sign of that mature partnership with the knowledge, but also not afraid to challenge, you know, on all levels as well, and to understand, you know, the kind of issues that are there, and about how, you know, the services that we provide and the impacts that are happening to residents, and about how we make it better, but also in the background about what it is actually that we're expecting officers and staff to do in the background. Is it worth, you know, the kind of effort going through it, or is it quite stringent, things like that there, you know, to meet certain criteria? And does that, you know, affect the way that we go against other needs and stuff like that, or maybe other projects that our officers would like to do, or believe is beneficial for the population at that time? So really do appreciate those responses. And yeah, Councillor Druitt.
Yeah, this is a comment rather than a question, Chair, but this is a really positive report, but hidden within the report are statistics about people who actually care. And there are many, many people who throughout the partnership area that care. You've got health and social services practitioners, you have council officers, you've got elected members, and they put in an enormous amount of hard work caring for people who need that care. And I think this report reflects all of that, and those are the hidden statistics that are here.
Thank you, Councillor Jewett, for that, and I appreciate on that side as well. I think as a committee, we believe that, you know, we can see the hard work being done from the answers that we've been advised there. So thank you very much on those. I will do a final round robin just to make sure there's no other questions there. Nothing from you, Councillor Jewett. Are you happy with what you've had tonight? Councillor Jones, thank you. Councillor Screen.
No other questions, Chair. No.
No worries. Thank you very much. There, Councillor Davis.
No, I've got nothing else. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much there. And finally, Councillor Bright.
No, thank you, Chair. I can't turn my camera on, but yeah, nothing else. Thank you very much.
No worries at all, Councillor. Thank you very much. I think that, as I said, we kind of saw it earlier, and I think you're about to pop by, so that's not a problem at all. I believe then, okay, we'll close the line of question on that side, just to check on the recommendations before we can send our guests away. If I can ask Neil to come into this, if that's okay, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just general comments from the committee. I'm very pleased with the report. Appreciate the way it's set out. We like the case studies, and commend the team with good work. Councillor Bright's query about the Ask Sarah app. Also requesting Natasha to send out the newsletters to show the extent of the work that we're doing for councillors to view and share. Other than that, was there any other comments or recommendations the committee would like to make in regards to the report?
So the one I noted, I think, has already been addressed, so that's not a problem on that side. So I believe that's it from the committee on this side. Yeah. I can't see any suggestions. That's fine. So I thank our guests and thank you for your time this evening. Hope you have a fantastic evening and see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And just a few moments longer with fellow committee members there to finish off there. So if I can pass over to Neil just to finish off with the scrutiny advisory reports there, and then we'll go into the minutes of the last meeting there.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just to advise the committee that all the actions and outcomes from the previous meeting, which was in April 8. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, 29th of October. We'll discuss the dog control PSPO and the one annual report.
Okay. Is there anything on outcomes, or is that mentioned?
Yeah, all the outcomes and actions are up to date. Well, we share the recommendations made from today's meeting out to officers, and we'll add it onto the table ready for the next meeting for committee members to view.
That's brilliant. No, thank you very much then. So if we can go for the minutes of the last meeting, hopefully colleagues should have seen that. Or Councillor Bright, yeah, sorry.
Yes, sorry, just on the forward working plan, the dog control public space protection order. Why are we discussing that? Is it, that's not a joint partnership, is it? That's just a Newport Council thing. So,
yeah, it used to go to Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, but within the committee's terms of reference, we are the Committee for Community Safety. So it falls within that now. But
okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Bright, for that. So yeah, so if I can ask colleagues for the minutes of the last meeting, which were held on the 25th of June, can I see if people are happy to propose? But first of all, just to double check, is there any matters arising from any of the minutes there? No, thank you. And can I see a proposer to state that they're happy with those? Yeah, I can see one this side, and Councillor Bright, if you would second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's those. So essentially that is it, and I thank colleagues very much for their attendance this evening, and look forward to seeing you at the end of the month there. Thank you.